Whether you're commanding your generals or sending a dinner invitation to Baron von Dinglesniffer, you'll probably need to hire a messenger. A messenger, or courier, was someone trained and paid to relay messages, documents, and items really quickly. So they were pretty expensive and couldn't carry much. And yeah, they're still around, but they're not as vital to the survival of states and empires as they were in the ambiguous years of back then.
Pizza time.
Everyone knows the expression, "don't kill the messenger." And well, you wouldn't need to say that if people didn't kill the messenger.
This is Sparta!
But sometimes people would take their frustration out on the bearer of the bad news, which was generally frowned upon. So here's the basic ways that historical messengers moved around. And stick around after for a little bonus world building of mine. Sometimes you just gotta run, like this guy. If you're someone who gets paid to go back and forth between places, you'll probably know the terrain very well, and you may develop a footpath on your trail. But having roads and bridges to run across makes it much easier, so thanks, Incan Empire. The Incas used messengers to centralize power because communication is key. That's my dating advice for today. They built stone roads throughout the Andes and fiber bridges over mountain valleys. On the main roads, there were inns called dampus, where a group of skilled couriers called jockeys stayed. An approaching courier would blow a conch shell. One jockey would go out, run alongside the other, retrieve any items or records in knotted quipus, and memorize any messages. The exhausted jockey would then return to the dampu and probably have a glass of water and a quick snack before heading back. Messages could travel hundreds of kilometers a day this way. Easy. Get a horse, go fast! Many strong and centralized empires had postal systems that allowed for government officials to correspond quickly, usually with a relay system of horse riders. Messengers in a public postal service were often seen as servants of the state or of the royal court, although their pay and social status varied. The only reason why this could work was, once again, roads. With roads and a centralized system of messengers, intelligence and orders could be shipped around an empire within a matter of days. Pigeons have the superpower of going home. A pigeon born in a town will be sent somewhere far away. The people there will tie a message to it and let it go free, and it'll return to its initial location with the message. It could do this using the sun, the great big earth magnet, landmarks, or its sense of smell. We don't really know. Pigeon enthusiasts tend to disagree with each other. In The Lord of the Rings, the Kingdom of Gondor had 7 huge fireplaces stretching across the White Mountains to the Kingdom of Rohan. During the siege of Minas Tirith, the beacons were lit and Rohan provided aid to Gondor against the forces of Sauron.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
The only thing is, these seem really expensive, because you need to pay a bunch of dudes to sit around and watch if the other beacons are lit. And what if Minas Tirith were sieged, I don't know, when it's snowing? This form of communication is basically the same as the smoke signal, which could communicate to anyone relatively close by. People that used these would have to be creative with it in order to send a more specific message. Native Americans would use the placement of a signal fire, accompanying fires, and plumes of smoke that were held down with blankets to convey different messages that were pre-arranged. You could also use things such as reflective mirrors and flags to signal to people who were relatively close by. Oh, and if you don't like any of that, you could try using a bike. Or maybe like a dog sled, or a zeppelin. Welcome to the world building bonus of the day. Woo! Okay, so in a world I'm using for my not-so D&D, there's an archipelago that's inhabited by mostly merchant gnomes. And there's a low-level sort of spell that they just figured out how to do that doesn't cost a lot. I'm not gonna go into the magic system now because that's not the point. The low-level spell shoots a flare of colored light really high into the sky. The gnomes have created a sort of Morse code based on the spacing and timing of 3 different colored flares. So towns, ships, and beacons like in Loader exist to transmit messages, and it's still really expensive to maintain, but it can send any message very quickly, so it's worth it. The speed at which it can send messages has unified several nations of the gnomes, but every power has its own code that you can use to transmit confidential commands, which makes some fun code cracking stuff for puzzles and everything. The only thing is, they can really only do it at night and when it's clear, because it's much more expensive to make the flares go higher or burn brighter, which would be necessary on a sunny day or when it's raining or snowing or something like that. But they're still really bright so they can be seen from far away at night. And this is why every gnome uses a sleep mask.